Well, guys, it's that time. It's time to review something that's a little bit mature for the general audience. So let's get going.
Be water, my friend.
So in the upcoming anime season, we got some new stuff coming out and some, returning stuff. One of it being Cells at Work. That is perfect for kids to learn stuff about the anatomy and what goes on in the body. So says doctors. They said a lot of research and a lot of stuff going into the anime. Well, there's another version of Cells at Work coming out. It's called Cells at Work Code Black. It's the 18 plus version, aka for adults to learn about their body and such. Yes, I know it's a little off-putting, and considering there's gender-bent stuff here, I'm going to go through and describe how they cover stuff. So in the beginning, it starts off with an easier task. Talk about smoking and how to deal with that and what happens when you smoke and how the cells react, and it shows them dying. It actually shows people dying. Yes, in Cells at Work itself, you see the white blood cells die and stuff, but they don't really cover it. It kind of just brushes over them and goes about the day. In this, you actually see them die. And then moving on later on, you see alcoholism. They cover ejaculation, erection, erectile dysfunction, that kind of thing, gonorrhea and how it attacks your system. Then they also talk about being overworked and hair loss, and getting hair loss, and a couple other different things from being overworked. So I think they take a really good approach to how adult they take the message and such. The first thing I like to point out between the differences is that besides the main theme, everyone's kind of gender bent a little bit. Like the red blood cells, you're mostly men. Of course, there's some women here and there, but throughout the whole book, it's mostly men. And all the white blood cells, I think they're just straight up women. I haven't seen any male white blood cell or white cells at all throughout that whole book, the first volume. I don't know. I just picked up the second through fourth volume, so I might see some males, but in this book, it's all females. There's another difference that they show in the manga is how they deal with the dead. So in, biology, you lose some of your white blood cells when you go to the bathroom and, use the restroom number one style. Well, it shows them doing like a Viking style funeral, essentially. They just put them in like little boats and then they ship them off and have a ceremony. That's how they deal with the dead there. Moving on to the like gonorrhea and stuff, it's just like the other viruses and so on and so forth, but it's more mature on how they were going to do stuff. They talk about how they're going to rip people apart, how they're going to tear apart the ecosystem, so on and so forth. The red blood cells, they still transport oxygen doing the whole thing. The white blood cells, they still, protect from the virus and stuff. The T cells, they're still going through, and the platelets are still the same. You hardly see the platelets though, because it's more of a adult theme. They also take different venues. So like you see the city, so on and so forth in regular Cells at Work, but now you're going into bars, different spas, basically like a maid cafe, essentially, adult worker cafe. Like they go through and show the adult themes throughout it while getting the message of healthy living, why drinking's bad for you, while smoking's bad for you, while unprotected sex is bad for you, so on and so forth. I really appreciate the message that this book gives along the way. Now, when I'm talking about the cafes when it comes to the alcohol and stuff, I'm talking about the hepatocytes. Let me double check with that. The hepatocytes, the hepatocytes. And then they also talk about the kupfercytes. These are the different women working in the bar and such to help please the red blood cells and help them keep them going and such. They also show them how they die, and then it goes through different parts of the body, showing how different workers in the liver die. When it comes to the hair loss, how your hair dies and falls out from the overwork and the stress, from the heat, from stress, all the different motions. Overall, it has a very good, mature message. And the thing I like about it is that it's very accurate with how everything happens. And like I said before, with Cells at Work, the original one, the PG one, essentially, doctors have reacted and said a lot of research has gone into it, and it's by the same people, so I don't have to I know without a doubt that the same amount of research and same amount of authenticity, as you would call it, went into this book and how accurate they are with everything they said. And it's very well appreciated to help get the message along of healthy living and so on and so forth. Now, one thing I would like to point out is the art style is a little bit more graphic, especially considering that it's for an older audience. So let me just show you this. I honestly like the art style and so on and so forth throughout it. It's very detailed and it gets the message along. And it's not afraid to show you other things that are going on, such as her changing clothes, white blood cell changing clothes, from people getting murdered from the different viruses and flu and stuff coming out. And then it moves on to show you things like this. The babies that are going to be born from, you know, the male area and how it deals with the erectile dysfunction. And it even shows the red blood cells going into thy special area to get it ready to go, and that way they can launch the babies out, and that way they can spread and continue on and so forth. That way they can make a human baby and create millions of other cells. That's how powerful those people are. And I would also like to point out how in this, the killer T cells are way more manly than the regular cells at work. So overall, if I had to compare to them, the artwork's a little bit more better, the story's a little bit more graphic, the story gets a lot of points across for regular adults that might drink and, you know, smoke out of stress from work and how to deal with that and so on and so forth. So I recommend you dive in and take a look at this before the anime comes out. And maybe when the anime comes out, I'll compare both to each other. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But for now, I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you all later.